What if you could grow food year-round, without gas, without electricity, and without a massive energy bill? It sounds impossible, especially in freezing winters, but the Amish have been doing exactly that for generations. No modern tech, no fancy systems, just smart design, natural physics, and a deep understanding of how heat actually works. And here's the crazy part: some of their greenhouses stay warm, even when it's snowing outside. So how do they do it? Let's break down the simple but genius methods the Amish use to heat greenhouses without gas or electricity. Everything starts with the sun. Amish greenhouses are carefully positioned to capture every possible bit of sunlight, especially during those brutal winter months. They're almost always built facing south. Why? Because in the northern hemisphere, that's where the sun stays the longest. The roof is specifically angled to catch the winter sun when it sits lower on the horizon, allowing the rays to strike the glass at a direct 90-degree angle for maximum penetration. During the day, sunlight enters the greenhouse, and once it's inside, it gets trapped. This is the greenhouse effect in its purest form. Shortwave solar radiation passes through the glazing, hits the surfaces inside, and converts into long-wave thermal energy. But capturing heat is only half the battle. The real challenge is keeping those plants from freezing at 3 in the morning. To solve this, the Amish employ what's known as thermal mass. If you look closely, you'll often see large black barrels filled with water or heavy stone floors lining the north wall. These materials act like a natural battery. They soak up the excess heat during the blazing afternoon sun, preventing the greenhouse from overheating. Then, when the sun goes down and the temperature drops, the cycle reverses. Those stones in barrels slowly radiate that stored warmth back into the air, keeping the soil warm until the sun rises again. It's a balanced cycle of absorption and radiation. No thermostat, no electricity, just a clever dance with the laws of physics. Inside an Amish greenhouse, you won't find electric heaters. Instead, you'll see rows of large dark water barrels, thick stone or brick walls, or heavy concrete floors. These aren't just for organization or structure, they are carefully chosen for their high heat capacity. During the peak of the day, as the sun beats down, these dense materials are hard at work. They soak up the excess thermal energy from the air. By absorbing that heat, they actually help keep the greenhouse from becoming too hot for the plants during the afternoon. Then, the shift happens. At night, when the outside temperatures plummet and the air inside starts to chill, the cycle reverses. All that stored heat begins to bleed back out into the room. Water is especially effective here. Because of its unique physical properties, a single barrel of water can hold on to its temperature for hours, often providing just enough of a thermal buffer to prevent a killing frost before the sun rises again. Now, this is where things get really interesting. The Amish also use something most people simply throw away: compost. While we usually think of composting as a way to make fertilizer, the Amish see it as a biological furnace. You see, when organic material breaks down, it doesn't just turn into soil, it produces heat. And lots of it. Inside a well-maintained compost pile, the microbial activity is so intense that temperatures can easily reach 60 degrees Celsius. To put that into perspective, that's hotter than a standard cup of coffee. So, how do they harness this living heat? The strategy is simple but brilliant. They place these active compost piles directly inside or immediately adjacent to the greenhouse walls. In some more advanced setups, they even run coils of piping through the center of the pile. As water or air moves through those pipes, it picks up the thermal energy from the decomposition and carries it right into the greenhouse. This method is often called a hotbed. It's a technique that's been used for hundreds of years, long before modern heating systems or thermostats ever existed. By leaning on the natural life cycle of bacteria, the Amish are able to grow warm weather crops even when the ground outside is frozen solid. It's not just recycling waste, it's capturing the very energy of life itself. Here's another clever trick. In some of the most efficient Amish farmsteads, the greenhouse isn't just a standalone building. It's actually built right next to or even directly attached to the animal barns. You see, a single cow or a flock of chickens acts like a living, breathing heater. Every animal on the farm naturally produces body heat, and in a standard barn, that warmth usually just drifts up and out of the roof. But the Amish design their buildings to share it. By giving the greenhouse and the barn a shared interior wall, they create a thermal bridge. The high body temperatures of the livestock on one side of the wall help keep the air on the other side from dipping into the danger zone. In some cases, the positioning is even more strategic. They might vent the warm, CO2-rich air from the animal stalls directly into the growing area. It's a perfect exchange. The plants get the warmth and the carbon dioxide they need to thrive, while the animals help provide a stable environment. It's a simple, elegant form of energy recycling. There are no wires to trip over and no fuel to buy. It's just smart, intentional placement that recognizes the farm as one single, living organism. Generating heat is the first step, but all that effort is wasted if you can't keep that warmth where it belongs. In an Amish greenhouse, every design choice is a calculated move to minimize heat loss and fight back against the winter wind. To do this, they rely on a multi-layered defense. You'll rarely see a single pane of glass. Instead, they use double-layered plastic or glass to create a dead air space, a natural barrier that slows down the escape of heat. The skeleton of the building is just as important. They use thick wooden frames which, unlike metal, don't conduct the cold into the interior. And because the sun never shines from the north, that entire back wall is often heavily insulated with wood, wool, or even earth, creating a solid shield against the freezing northern gusts. And what happens when the sun goes down? That's when the unsaved blanketing begins. Sometimes you'll see straw bales stacked high along the exterior foundations for extra ground-level insulation. But the real secret is inside. At night, the Amish often cover the plants themselves with heavy cloth or specialized row covers. It's exactly like putting a blanket over your crops, trapping that precious soil heat right where the roots need it most. By the time the moon is high, every single bit of warmth captured during the day is being held tight, preserved by a system that refuses to let a single degree go to waste. In extreme cold, even the best passive systems face a challenge. When a polar vortex moves in and the temperatures stay well below freezing for days on end, some Amish farmers turn to one final layer of protection: the wood-burning stove. But here's the key difference between this and a modern heating system. The stove isn't the primary engine of the greenhouse. It is strictly a backup. Because their insulation, thermal mass, and compost heat are so effective, the stove only needs to be lit during those rarest, most brutal stretches of winter. It's there to bridge the gap, to provide that extra 10 degrees of safety that keeps the most sensitive seedlings from succumbing to the frost. And even then, the philosophy remains the same. When they do reach for firewood, it isn't something bought from a utility company. It's locally sourced from their own woodlots, seasoned over years, and burned in simple, high-efficiency cast-iron stoves. There is still no gas line buried in the dirt. There are still no electrical sensors or fans to break down. It is a system built on independence and foresight, a backup plan that honors the same sustainable cycle as the sun itself. What makes Amish greenhouses so powerful? It isn't just the individual methods themselves, it's the mindset behind them. In a world that often rushes toward the most expensive, high-tech solution, the Amish have chosen a different path. Instead of relying on complex machinery that can break, or fossil fuels that fluctuate in price, they rely on a deep, fundamental understanding of nature. They have mastered the basic elements: the angle of the sunlight, the density of heat storage, the biological energy of decomposition, and the silent strength of insulation. These aren't new ideas. They are ancient principles, thousands of years old, applied with modern precision and smarter design. They remind us that true efficiency doesn't always require a circuit board or a power grid. So hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a video from Gardening Discovery.